faster than a lay round, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And then judges, to confirm, are you guys okay with speed and then with like an extinction impact? Just to make sure.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Judge Reeves, just confirming, are you here?
Yep, I'm here.
Cool. Well, congrats on making it to the finals and best of luck.
All right. We'll probably send. Actually, I think we should wait for the like the USAFO people to join.
Are they gonna join the call, or can we just start?
They said they wanted to record it, so I don't know.
I think the Zoom auto records, if I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, that's true.
The Zoom does auto record.
All right, then I can send the doc. Just give me a sec.
Okay, and I just sent the email chain. Tell me if you guys get it or don't get it.
Is a Google Doc fine, or do you need like a Word or PDF?
Google Doc is fine.
Google Doc is fine.
Sorry, can I get a PDF? I'm coaching out of China, so I can't access Google.
Okay, yeah. I'll send
Thank you.
both just in case.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I send the email, we can start. Okay. All right, Ranesh, I'm going to send the doc right now. Tell me if everyone gets it. I sent both a doc and a PDF, by the way. So, yeah. Whenever you get it, Ranesh, you can start your speech.
Yeah. All right. And it's just gonna start on my first word.
I haven't gotten it yet.
Wait, I haven't gotten it yet.
Oh, for some reason I got it. The other emails are on there. I don't know.
I'll text it to you, Lily.
Wait, can you repeat that?
I got it, but not sure if everyone else got it.
Okay. Did everyone else get it?
Not yet.
Huh. The emails are entered, right? I think.
It might just take a while. Gmail.
Yeah. Has everyone else gotten it? Maybe resend it, Vijay.
Check your guys' spam folders. It just got sent to mine, so check your guys' spams as well. So I just got it.
I got it. I'm good. It's in my spam.
All right, awesome. I'm gonna assume everyone's on it, and in that case, the time is gonna start on my first word. We negate settlement is an everyday process constituted not only by the initial clearing of the land, but by the ideological reiteration of the geopolitical and spatial self-evidence of the terrain on which political struggle occurs. Disorientation is necessary, a political strategy that makes the space alien to us. Rifkin 13. If orientation is making familiar through the extension of bodies into space, then disorientation occurs when the extension fails. The critical project appears less than as a locating space in which discover the fullness of the self-making an alien already occupied space, such that we should not recognize it becoming conscious of the everyday enactment of settlement involves relinquishing the notion of autonomous extra-political selfhood, instead opening onto a recognition of not only enduring native presence, but on the epithest history of displacement that it provides the continuing condition of possibility for the settlers. For the settler, the absence of declared imperial commitment does not suggest non-natives' exoneration from continuing histories of violence. Absence of malice or declaration of support does not address the ways the quotidian experiences of space and subjectivity effectively register and iterate settler sovereignty in ways that shape the generation of political projects that do not take native lands as their direct object. Settler common sense as the ordinary action whose aim is not whose aim is not such, but whose effect is to reiterate the self-evidence of settler geopolitics. Thus, the role of the ballot is to vote for the team that best minimizes settler colonialism. Nuclear energy necessitates the wastelanding of indigenous land under the guise of going green to protect the settler nation. Extraction materially destroys indigenous communities and assumes their land as valueless. Montoya 22. Definition of clean is relative under nuclear colonialism remains the same. Risks radioactive waste and meltdown. Legitimization of stockpiling with green agendas. Risk indigenous homelands. Primary repository of uranium is on sovereign nations. Genocide by mining abandoned mines. Continue health consequences. The security states that the terms by which production comes as a necessary ideological rendering of certain land as targets of extraction enable racialized violence, wastelanding non-white lands only for what can be mined at the expense of indigenous land and sovereignty. Liberal sensibilities around environmental protection reinscribe the same colonial ecologies they claim to resolve. Under said call, protecting the homeland requires the invasion of the homelands of others. Material ecologies of wars are ever present. Nuclear colonialism is not only a material but discursive practice which restricts legitimate debate in order to establish nuclear power as necessary, deeming native land as zones of sacrifice for the national interests of settlers. Andres 09. Legal system limit rights, drawing on the domestic dependent relationship that holds indigenous lands in trust, visit justification systems, keep colonizers from feeling guilty, grant sovereignty while simultaneously restricting. And nuclearism is the assumption that weapons and power are crucial as to the national interest, justify production, a discursive system configured by the nationalism and technical rationality. The West has been construed as a national sacrifice zone. Tautologicalness is a basic assumption that production serves the national interest. Strategy defines indigenous people as part of the nation, not separate, defining opponents as unpatriotic premise that public participation is a hazard to official interests, constrain indigenous peoples in decisions, defines indigenous peoples as subversive, build assumption that the U.S. is inherently worthy of defense against them. Models of participation define what counts as legitimate, exclude social, political, and emotional arguments. Main theme in comments by indigenous peoples: value of land. Indigenous peoples hold their land as having the highest possible meaning. Spiritual claims overlooked in favor of competing national interests. The alternative is refusal. This is a generative praxis towards the decolonial futures that must be crushed to make way for the AF's genocidal horizon. King 17. Generative refusal and decolonial and abolitionist tradition is making Western thought turn upon itself as settler colonial knowledge, making the settler colonial meta-narrative the object of research, question assumptions, and exposes violent particularities of the meta-narrative. Refusal reverses erasure enacted by European theory, which uses genocide to annihilate native epistemologies. When the U.S. as the practice of genocide itself ceases to exist, then native peoples can exist as human. The U.S. can no longer determine the conditions for being human. Studies can look to Black and Native resistance as the praxis in theory that shift the terms of identity. Neg.
Okay, I'm sending. I'll just be sending a Word. Can you all access Word, or I can also paste it into a doc?
Wait, Word is kind of like iffy on my laptop. It like bugs out a lot. So if you could send as a Google Doc or a PDF, that would be great.
Okay, for sure.
Thank
I
you.
can send it as a PDF.
Can you add the word as well?
Oh yeah, for sure. Sorry, I'm trying to make the doc version right now. Okay, I just sent. If everyone gets it, I can start. And if you can't hear, just yell clear. Does everyone have it?
I still have not gotten it yet.
Okay.
I think I just got it. Let me see if. Yeah, I got it.
Okay. We affirm the resolution resolved the United States federal government should substantially increase investment in domestic nuclear energy. Contention 1 is climate. New nuclear energy converts waste into electricity for 2025. Ohio's renewable battery that converts nuclear waste into electricity utilizes radiation to power the electronics to clean energy. Do not offer a solution to radioactive waste. Moreover, this is a higher level radiation nuclear waste store facility suited for investing is key for 2025. Scaling up will require addressing causing the real further research. France approves its effectiveness or nano-ND. 96% of fuel used in reactors can be recycled, generate electricity from reduce the volume of radioactive waste by 5 radioactivity by 10. France burns nuclear energy for nuclear energy generates significantly by recycling thanks to nuclear fuels. Electricity by reduced by 40% by a decade. Wealthy countries like Japan, Russia, and Netherlands often leaving behind to recycle. It's produce air pollution and warming from emissions. It's already started. So cool 21. UNICO displaced air pollution also enhanced mitigation of climate change. Newly funded 1.34 million air pollution related deaths. Climate change is existential. Non-23. Since soon 2030 emissions will reduce on climate change. Ecocide warming overwhelms adaptive capacity models and galactic main points such as the Amazon thwarting of permafrost and climate change may exacerbate economic damages, loss of land effects to spread of disease and the conflicts, cause of global collapse. Contention 2 is submarines. American SSMB flight is aging out soon. New nuclear subs are needed. Clear in 24. Navy submarines replace Ohio Center maintaining nuclear deterrent. Ohio submarines responsible for nuclear deterrent. Columbia class replaces the will not be fueling. But nuclear power issues have delayed. Columbia will miss the 2027 deadline. LeBron 24. Nearly turbines in Columbia may be obstacle nuclear be installed before the hull is delayed and cascaded in other systems. Ohio class decommissioned by 2027. Indeed, SEC this week. Columbia has now to the 18 months behind. Investment solves delays and reassures suppliers. Field 22. Restore the defense through the economic investments. Invest in the new workers, equipment, facilities, content, reassures supplies to guarantee demand lowers because of increased likelihood of supply and production. Columbia will deliver by improving speed. Failure kills submarine nuclear deterrence and seize the ground to Russia, China. Software 24. Columbia delays weaken our national security, aging nuclear backbone deterrent to carry nuclear energy, the critical part of defense carrier, China ramping up without the balance of power shifts. If the Navy can't get some of the time weakening nuclear deterrent when it's on the rise. Scenario 1 is Russian emboldened now despite Ukraine. The Economics Time reported just last month nuclear was Putin bidding before launch of the devastating attacks across Europe and Ukraine. Trump clamoring the United States NATO leaving Americans and faith Russian defenseless. Russia will afterwards in a couple of years ago 3 European nations lost to defense created. Scenario 2 is China is planned to attack soon. They named the 2027 deadline Velez Green 23. Xi Jinping directed China military to ready to take Taiwan 27. Military green powerful to make enough landfall. GWP goes nuclear extinction clear 23. Great power negotiate nuclear and destructive technologies. To go with technology, bolster arsenals, accidents, speaking of conflicts, escalate tension, and cause nuclear to fight. Such a war can lead to extinction through famine by reducing resilience and reducing nuclear conflict about other modern technologies. But Columbia sub caps nuclear escalation. Osborne 25. Columbia saves the world looking security adversaries at risk of disruption on unknown occasions. Good deterrence guarantees second strike annihilation. Any other country promises destruction keeps the pace. Number 1 priority. Affirmed. Contention 3 is Russia. Russian dominance in nuclear energy vis-a-vis state-backed corporation. Rostam uses leverage capacity to fuel Putin's war machine. Doggett 23. Rostam can use expanded regions by ongoing war. U.S. allies feel around because this forces circumvent Western sanctions. Russian the fully fledged world power of Russian military advances. Russian will continue to provide Russia with an edge in a war. Russian reach is global and dangerous, and they empirically disregard safety and weapon facilities. That is 24. Russian the worldwide feeling nuclear is aided the war plans in Ukraine. Russian to disregard safety and skin of wider Ukrainian companies for reactors. Safety to try Iran. Plans for Russian are developing in countries with questionable safety standards. U.S. the fifth fuel to be used by Russian bios Rostam. This domestic investment would be enough to undermine Russian efforts. Sticker and Rugo 23. U.S. supply of uranium. Russian provides today sanctions on Russian as a new fuel for this fuel. And Russian is key to Russian power production. Sidam 24. Russian is a textbook case of realist understanding of energy politics. Russia plays an important role for Russia to prestige and status and claim the great power war. Russian expansionism ensures extinction and great power war, poverty, disease, and environmental destruction. Hiram 22. If Putin succeeds for solo final collapse of global order, all across will destroy the world war conquers against possible against democracies. The world military will look to Russia. War, poverty, disease will result in the ultimate will stop global war. We will strengthen. If you want to protect a war and ecological collapse, the best way is by cooperating. For all of these reasons, affirm.
Did you get through the whole doc?
Yeah.
All right. I'm good for cross.
Okay. You would have the first question.
All right. Time's going to start now. On submarines, what's the uniqueness?
2 things. First, currently the Columbia fleet requires nuclear energy and nuclear turbines. We don't have that because there is zero amount of investment in nuclear energy that is enough to actually provide those things. Can I have a question?
Okay. If we can prove that there is investment right now, then does that mean that this argument is just not true?
Two things. Number one, you can't just prove that currently US is investing in the military. You have to prove that US is currently investing in nuclear energy. But even secondly, right now, nuclear energy investment is not enough. That's precisely why we can't build these nuclear turbines, because as of now, that's not enough investment to build the turbines. But second of all, it's not getting enough like actual continuous attention enough to stop the delays. But can I have a question?
Which evidence says it's not enough investment?
We can get to that later. Can I have a question?
Sure.
Can you explain to me, like, process by process, how the US begins mining on indigenous lands?
Yeah, basically the link is just that, right? Like in order to expand nuclear energy, we need uranium, right? But our evidence finds that most of the uranium that the US needs is on indigenous lands. And
Okay,
we'll,
I
like,
understand
under the
that.
act, if we want to expand, we'll take the land from the indigenous to get the uranium.
So is your link that the United States is currently going to indigenous lands without native permission, or is there a native permission?
Yeah.
Because currently there
We're
is.
saying that it's not going to be like they don't have permission right now to like
Okay,
just
give
move through
me
the
one sentence from a single card that says currently United States is going to native lands as of now to mine uranium with zero native permission.
Yeah, well, sure. I'm not gonna do that because that's kind of for the AF, right? Like, we're not saying that the US is invading like native lands to the extent that they'll be doing it post AF. Can I get a
I
question?
can answer that for you. As of now, the United States is paying
thought I-
Native American people in order to mine on their land, a process to which Native people agree to.
Yeah, if you want to make that response, we can do it in rebuttal. Can I get a question?
Go ahead.
Okay, which of your evidence says that current investment is not enough? Can you
You
just
just said that you're not going to do that when I asked for a sentence in the evidence, but also you can look towards every single one of our cards. We're seeing delays right now because there is a lack of nuclear turbines and nuclear energy reactors in order to power those submarines. Every single card tells you that same information.
wait,
Can I have a
you're
question?
saying every single card says there's not enough investment right now?
No, every single card specifically says that we currently need nuclear turbines right now, and we don't have that in order to power the Columbia fleet. That's precisely why it's delaying. But can I have a question?
Sure.
Let's go back to settler colonialism. Why should we prefer that over extinction?
Yeah, policymakers will just like say, oh, extinction, extinction. Like in the history of debate, like the last 10,000 cases have all argued extinction and not one of them has been true, hence this round. So it's like kind of dumb to just argue these impacts that obviously aren't happening. We're seeing set call right now. And these indigenous tribes are very ignored, which is why we should prefer like impacts that help these like indigenous peoples over like extinction, climate
Okay,
change, nuclear
time's
warfare.
up, but indigenous people are part of the people group.
Hey, we're just gonna take a little bit of running prep. My time's going to start now.
Yeah.
How much?
End time at 38 seconds. If you got something different, just let me know. The oral speech is just gonna go K, then it'll go down the affirmatives case. Is everyone ready? Oh wait, let me send out the doc real quick of all the cards I'm reading. Just give me a sec. Do we want Word and a PDF?
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, let me just download both. Okay. I just sent both. The doc name will just be called speech doc whenever you get it, by the way. But yeah.
Wait, you sent it to us as a Word doc as well, right?
Yeah, I sent us both a Word doc and a PDF.
Okay, cool.
Did everyone get the doc? Okay.
Not yet. Wait, I didn't get it.
Okay. Check the spam. I did reply all. Is your email on the email chain?
Oh wait, let me forward it to your email. My bad. Okay, I just forwarded it. You should see it.
Okay. The ORC will go K, then their case. That being said, my time.
Wait, can we wait until I get it? Sorry.
Oh yeah, my bad.
Because usually I like download the Word files and stuff.
Of course.
It's just the one called speech doc, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
With that being said, my time will begin now. At the top, there's no time frame for extinction on any of their impacts. We'd argue intervening actors fall back because their impacts could happen even 1,000 years. But then, narratives of existential threats or a settler move to innocence. That's key to solidification of settler futurity. Dali 16 settlers often contemplate the possibility of their own extinction. The settler transformed from outsider to indigent must remain considerably incomplete because the desire to be at home and it necessarily invokes a spectrum of native whose existence describes settler foreignness. The contemplation deploys a narrative trope, fear of a looming annihilation to foster racial solidarity, suppressed dissent, and legitimate violence against indigenous people. Narratives of settler extinction or acts of ideological mystification obscuring the brutal inequalities of the frontier behind a mask of white vulnerability. Extinction narratives preclude racial change, creating opportunities for settler moves to innocence and re-legitimize racial inequality. Extinction is a color trope through which settler futurity emerges with crucial narrative and ideological effects that shape the literature emerging from the white colonial settings. Remember, the role of the ballot is to vote the team that best minimizes settler colonialism insofar as they are actively engaging it through their framing. You can drop them for that round. Our interpretation is that the AF is a method of research, and if we prove that the research is built on settler scholarship and endorses colonial practices, that is a reason to drop them because arguments assume the framing and their evidence to be true, which means if we prove that their evidence and framing is bad, they don't have an argument in the first place, and you should vote like neg as a method of punishing them and to stop to incentivize future debaters to read non-settler scholarship, and prefer this because fiat is illusory, but the way we structure arguments shapes the way we think in and outside the debate. Go to recycling. Nuclear waste recycling is bad. Nuclear energy recycling is dangerous. Two is to about new waste systems created along the way. Everything that's touched during reprocessing, such as equipment, gets contaminated. After reprocessing, waste remains the highly radioactive fission products. When recycling, you contaminate literally everything, and that hurts the workers as well, which contamination still exists, which hurts accidents. But then, two, grid technology for nuclear blocks of renewable energy, keeping fossil fuels off the grid. Can't 24 finds nuclear technical limitations and economic factors for the feeding of renewable energy, blocking renewable energy products from allowing for continued fossil usage. That only increases fossil usage, and nuclear energy contributes to climate change in multiple stages along its development process. Level 21, uranium extraction, construction of plants, and nuclear waste transport emissions must be taken into account. Nuclear power releases 3.5 times more CO2 solar panels compared with wind power, 13 times more CO2. We argue through uranium extraction, moving radioactive waste, and all the handling of process emits more carbon emissions per hour evidence. Go to subs. We're messing subs right now prefers because literally from 6 days ago, their link evidence is from 2022, and they can't provide any counter evidence. Marino 25, the U.S. Defense Department is currently in the midst of a multi-decade-long nuclear modernization effort that includes replacing all the nuclear submarines, making up the sea leg of the U.S. nuclear triad. We're already doing it right now. But then, no U.S.-China war. Xiao 23, China's not ready for a war. Development coordinated lack of strategy facing mounting domestic problems, including corruption in the military. Xi focus on the pandemic and the consequences of the economic and financial areas. U.S. military treaties taking military action to destroy Xi's China dream presidency agenda and ambitions. China implement no first use economy, military not strong enough, not ranked among the 100 richest nations per capita, comprehensive power last yet considering the quality and overall strength as well as the alliances. Also, Trump literally just put like $1 billion into like the military. But then the tech race and the full-scale China attack on the US fake was created by corporations and the MIC to generate capital. Paul 24, the MIC holds significant sway over the initiation of conflicts. U.S. arms exports contribute to escalating tensions with China. The MIC exacerbates tensions through extensive media programs promoting the narrative of potential existential threats. Their linkage to expanding that only worsens issues. The USAFO's plan is the final straw that breaks the camel's back. A full-scale policy re-incentivizes government cooperation between the U.S. and China to win the conflict, which creates huge threat inflation, which creates feedback loops, uniquely forcing China to escalate. Just turns case U.S. threat perceptions made Washington prone to policy reactions that inflation could increase the probability of avoidable conflict. Also, on Russia, Russia is not re-envisioned as expanding American status, cushioning unfair international hierarchies, makes war inevitable, turns case, Larson and Shevchenko 19, attempts to obstruct, provoke backlash, nationalism, military, build us geopolitical rivalry rooted in psychological perception of unfair treatment, motivate low status to challenge, slow narrative, critique misses, psychological dynamics, frustration over denied status, unfair treatment, anti-literacy over hierarchy, social group one, policy, distinctive identity, empirical evidence such as U.S. efforts to frustrate status of Russia and China generate intense resentment, backlash, Cold War, but more dangerous trying to impede efforts. Yeah, also mutually assured destruction stops any sense of nuclear warfare.
I'll take a little bit of running prep and I'll start my time now. Okay, that was 58 seconds of prep. I will send out the doc right now. Wait, I don't have, wait, does it still work if like I'm not on the chain?
I
Or
don't
like,
know. Could you like,
because I got forwarded the message, not like replied.
could you send the doc to like your partner and have?
You can also just send it in the Zoom, I'm pretty sure.
You can send a file in Zoom.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, if you go to the
Oh.
chat,
Yeah,
there's
you
a thing that says
click-
file.
You click.
Oh,
You click
okay.
the thing that
Yeah,
kind
I
of looks
see
like
it.
a folded the folded page. It looks
I
like.
It
see
looks
it.
like a page with a fold in the top right, and then yeah, you can send files here.
Wait, where is it?
Go to
Oh,
chat. You see a little like
oh,
paper with
yeah,
the fold at the top
I
right?
see it.
That, upload it, it goes here.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
doing Zoom debate for like 5 years.
Oh, okay. Wait, never mind. Never mind. All right. I have the
Can you
file.
send the, can you send the PDF as well, please?
Sure. Is there like a converter or
Yeah, if you go to in the top left of your Word doc, if you go to File, Save As, you can click
Oh, okay,
to
okay,
save it
okay,
as a
okay.
PDF.
Okay, I see.
Apologies for the inconvenience.
No problem. It's just a few more clicks. Okay. Just sent it.
Thank you.
Okay. Did everybody get the stuff or just making sure? Okay, cool. I'll start on climate and then submarines, Russia, and set code last. Okay. Is everyone good? Cool. Nuclear energy can now convert waste into energy, and this is exactly why France is so efficient. Nuclear energy has saved millions of lives so far from warring-related deaths and is key to mitigate climate change. Otherwise, extinction will happen. They say we have no time for extinction, but we have multiple evidence for this. Like there are tipping points everywhere from 2035 to even 2050. But also, they say waste cycling is bad. Classify our empirics. They have no empirics whatsoever. They just say waste cycling is bad without providing actual data, which is the real data that is needed when evaluating these issues. For example, France proves China, Japan, Italy, and all those other countries. And they say that grid technology blocks renewables off the grid, but this is not true because renewables still exist despite having nuclear energy now. There are multiple countries that have renewables and nuclear energy, and all we need is a few more reactors where we can build more reactors on the existing reactors, just convert them to this technology that uses waste as fuel. But next, contention 2 was subs. New nuclear subs are needed in the SSBN fleet now because current subs are aging, and nuclear power issues have delayed Colombia. So if we don't act, we won't meet the 2027 deadline. Otherwise, failure kills sub-based deterrence and emboldens China and Russia toward great power war. They say U.S. defense replaces all subs now, but investment is key now still because we need the turbines. That they say nothing about turbines, and those are the things we were missing, and those are what's calling the delays for the 2029 deadline. We need more investment, otherwise it will cause delays and reduce legitimacy of the subs. Then they say that China econ military is not strong enough and all that stuff. We'll concede it doesn't trigger China, but we still say Russia invades in a couple of years of no deterrence, and they completely drop this impact on face. Next, contention 3 was Russia. Russia dominates with Rosatom in Russia's nuclear energy strategy, but Rosatom disregards safety and instead weaponizes their facilities. And to reduce influence, US must increase nuclear influence to undermine them. Otherwise, Rosatom projects power and is emboldened to start a great power US with causing extinction. And Russia, they say Russia is not revisionist. It is. We have several cards in a couple of years. It will invade Poland, and Russia has said this because they are aggravated, and they invade Crimea and Ukraine back to back. They obviously are revisionist and they're trying to get more territory. But let's move to settler colonialism. Framework interpretation way the theated implication of the plan's implementation of the firm against a competitive alternative and offense to the action of the alternative or impact turns. The next should have to depend the alternative preferred because fairness, any other burden creates incentives to move the AF and shift to you, to link you lose strategies, and fairness is an intrinsic good since debate is a game and it's necessary for any other purpose of debate. And that's the reason why their coaches will be mad at you if you flipped a coin to decide the round. Competitive alternatives invariably produce material links and regardless, so no offense. But B, education, placing unpredictable burdens on the AF weakens retention and discourages incentives for meaningful research on the topic. We don't say research is bad. We are researching real life things that can help Indigenous people besides solving by refusing to acknowledge that call. And extinction framing is good. They say that we can't run extinction impact because people have ran extinction before. First, that's not a warrant, but second, our probability is extremely high because time frame is 2 years for Russia, something they have completely conceded. On infant framing, existential crisis inevitably generates social violence, marginalized communities only by positive collective policy-based risk management mitigates it. Galley 22. People experience psychological impacts of crises emitted anonymous raises issue minor from new one threat is under discriminated with relentless attention to relentless how to prepare without compounding anxieties of qualitative data investigate collectively aspect and positively associated with developing including agency connection and social capital fear of balancing with opportunities to reduce survival opportunities for problem solving and can enhance perception control focusing exclusively on individual action harmful being feel actions are inadequate and can lead to burnout collective action projects against social rights focusing on positive emotion to maintain resilience. 2 perm to both there is a net benefit we solve internationally which the all can do, and 3 perm to the AF and all mutually non-exclusive parts of the alt. 4 perm to the AF with the lens of the alt, and 5 no links, no nuclear waste link. We don't emit nuclear waste onto land. We use it as fuel. This solves in turns. B, no mining link. We're not using we're not using uranium. We're using waste. And 2, even if we do use uranium is 99.85% out of the United States, and that's why we have to constantly trade if we want uranium or REMs or renewables or stuff. 6, floating picks, utopian fiat, and vague alts are a voter. It's impossible to leverage AF offense and makes the alt a moving target. 7, the alt's first grammars, settler political grammars can be repurposed, refusal on behalf of all natives is racist romanticism, and alt precludes concrete change, meaning if you prefer the alternative, you're actually not doing anything except for hypothetically refusing inside the round because they want to get the ballot, but also they can't justify the ballot. It's minimizing the problem to a single ballot, and that's bad for Indigenous dignity. It's not that simple when it would be much more effective to just go out and advocate for Indigenous rights instead of trying to do so in a round. And their focus on epistemology is a settler move to infinite as such. Tuck and Yang mark that as an analytic. I only read the first card in the speech doc.
Wait, was everything else analytic?
Yeah.
Okay. With that being said, can we start cross?
Yeah.
Okay. Since I spoke, Chris, can I get the first question?
Sure.
On the perm, how do you perm refusal?
We can refuse settler colonialism while also defending.
Wait, so if we win the
rights.
link that says your argument is settler colonialism, then you don't access the perm, correct?
If you win what?
If we win the link that your scholarship is built on settler futurity, does that mean you don't access any of the perms?
No, because we're still like the affirmative can still facilitate settler colonialist or anti-settler colonialist mindsets through research without necessarily having to zero that app and doing like a you link you lose thing. May I have a question?
Sure.
Okay, so I want to ask you a little bit about this alt stuff. Is there like two levels of the alt? Is there any spillover, or is it just refusal within the round? I just want you to describe it a little bit.
We would argue there definitely is some sort of spillover because it incentivizes you and the judges to go back and not reset their scholarship. But even then, we'd argue it's just a form of, even if we don't win spillover, it's a form of punishment, right? If we win that your argument scholarship is bad, you don't have any offense in the round because your evidence isn't true and your arguments isn't true because it's based on settler research. And two, it also like punishes you for engaging in settler colonialism.
Okay, we could debate all of that, but may I just have a quick follow-up? If we experience like this settler colonialist debate, how is that going to mean that we're going to stop reading settler colonialist or US-based rhetoric as you frame it as settler colonialist? Doesn't this mean we're just going to increase our blocks against that call?
No, because what we would argue is it's more about like the way you do research, right? Because what we would say is that
how do you change how we do research, like as a school?
Right. What we would argue is we also change this empirically through to the judges, right? If we tell us that, see, this is an argument that is good, it's going to incentivize judges to go to their students to do the same thing. But two, we would argue that even if you build as blocks, the fundamental truth of the argument is still true, right? We would argue. But
if you're building blocks, you're building arguments to argue against settler colonialism, correct?
It's not just going to increase the number of blocks. What it will do is shift strategy because logically thinking about this, if you lose to this argument, you're not going to you're not just going to build a series of blocks if the reason you're losing the argument isn't the responses, but it's the fact that your argument itself is built on settler research. But two, even if we don't win spillover, it serves as a form of punishment. You shouldn't win the round if all your offense is built on settler research, which means you don't have offense in the round. We've been on this.
Okay, we can debate framework later. You can have a question.
Let's go to your argument on Russia. You tell me that Russia is like, if we prove that Russia and China are reactionist, does that turn your arguments against you? Because
like they're purely defense based.
Like they're reactions, if the US increases like nuclear subs, that incentivizes China and Russia to do like the same thing or do alternative reactions in like the sense of like fear.
Like if you win that they're reactionist, do we lose access to it?
Yeah.
No.
Why?
Because if they are reactionists, then they are still willing to attack the United States and China. But first of all, like the United States is not going to attack first because they are aware of these like consequences that will happen. But second, if they're reactionists, then they're willing to keep on ramping up technology and not knowing that deterrence is going to give them a bloody nose. So
okay. We'll take running prep starting now.
Okay, cut it there. Minute 42. Yeah, let me write that down. Cool. So, it should not be new cards. It's gonna start on the AF case, then move to like the neg set call, framing, pre-field offense, all that stuff, all signposts. It should be like pretty clear. So yeah.
So just the AF and the K.
Yeah. And it's gonna start on my first word. On the case start on climate, one, there's no time frame for extinction. They only have one for lock-in, and they just say it's either 2035 or 2050. It's way too vague for you to be voting off of, because we would also say, if we can prove that there's no time frame, that they have conceded the analysis that says that the uniqueness overwhelms the link, which is that their evidence is not specifically saying that they have a solution, and we would say that other intervening factors are going to solve back for it anyways, which means that if there's no time frame, you're definitely not evaluating these types of arguments. With that being said, number two, our evidence finds that on net, countries that use more nuclear energy see more climate change. Three, uranium mining itself causes climate change. Both of these responses were conceded. They just say they prefer our evidence, but no, our evidence is a meta study of over 100 countries and takes into account way more data, or not a meta study, it's an analysis of over 100 countries and takes into account way more data than what they talk about. On subs, one, they've conceded we already have a plan for development right now, so even if the resolution passes, we're not doing the submarine development plan that they talk about in their AF plan, since a different plan has already been passed and they don't read evidence saying something different. That couple implications: one, that means that their link is false, and two, that means we've already solved, which so you can implicate it as a non-unique. Two, they've conceded that China won't attack because their econ and military aren't strong enough. On Russia, one, our evidence is dropped and says Russia only does things out of fear that the US will start something, and affirming is an act of like going and perpetuating this like arms race. It's just a fully conceded turn to their case. Two, there's no time frame for extinction, and three, they've conceded that nothing goes nuclear because of the threat of mutually assured destruction. This was completely conceded. The impact defense is very clean. Go to the K. Start on the framing. Our interpretation is that the affirmative is a method of research and thus should weigh their framing of the plan and their scholarship before looking at the substance of the case, because arguments assume the scholarship and framing to be true and accurate, thus making it come before looking to the app's advantages itself. If we prove that the affirmative framing and methodology of research is colonialist and built on settler scholarship, there's a reason to drop them to incentivize research that is not predicated on settler futurity. Prefer this over their case because fiat is illusory, but the way we structure arguments affects the way we think about the world, and which spills outside of this round. Four pieces of offense. One, a vote for the app is a vote for uranium mining, which is terrible because in order to power nuclear technology, we must first encroach on indigenous lands to take the nuclear, like the uranium, fully conceded link to set call. By the way, two, the U.S. was built on stolen land and genocide. That's any action emboldens those principles and endorses colonialist practices. The ontology is conceded, which means that we're definitely winning set call. Three, the ultra refusal is the most offense under the rule of the ballot, since our evidence finds that actively refusing state policies is the best way to stand up to colonialist governments. Four, their justification for why we should affirm is just extinction. You should drop them for that logic because our evidence says that policymakers scapegoat extinction as a way to make it seem urgent to pass colonialist policy. A vote for them endorses this justification that will bring problems into the real world. This is full conceded. The only thing they interact with was cross, but that's not even part of speech, so you're definitely not flowing that. On their responses, they say weigh fiat of the plan because it is key to fairness and education. But if the scholarship that the research they read is racist, then that's a reason to drop them. And B, if their research is racist, that means you're causing unfair and uneducational practices, and it makes the debate stage less safe, so people aren't going to join it in the first place. They say refusal is bad because it's racist, but we're not doing it on behalf of all natives by commodifying the issue. But our argument is that the settler scholarship is bad. We aren't doing this to be the face of indigenous communities. We're saying that settler framing is bad. They say we can't justify the ballot, but we don't minimize the issue. Our advocacy isn't that we solve for settler colonialism, but that the engagement is bad and causes settler futurity. They say ontological focus is bad, but remember our evidence that says it's key to understanding that the government is based on genocide, which we don't even need to win ontology anyways. And then they say perm do both. It's literally refusal. That's like saying you can say yes and no to the same question, just not possible. Vote neg.
Okay, I'll take running prep. Time starts when I mute. All right, 102. Okay, it's gonna be AFK Wang. Good. We're going for Russia. It's very important because they drop a lot of the analytics and empirics we give you. Number one, understand they concede that Russia is going to invade, and revisionist is very important for two reasons. Number one, they drop the fact it's currently threatening Poland to invade. And number two, they've already invaded Ukraine. That's not some other like non-revisionist policy. That's very revisionist. They drop those empirics. But second of all, understand they concede the fact that Russia is expansionist. That's also very important because they want to expand, which means they will actually invade other countries. It's also very important. But third of all, understand they concede everything on Russia except a few other things because MAD, we'll get to that later. But then fourth of all, understand that Russia is already invading Ukraine and Poland. That's very important. Lastly, on time frame, we told you 2 years. Russia is going to invade in 2 years. That's a very important time frame, and that's the earliest impact in the round. Fundamentally, you vote on that immediately. But then on MAD, understand that's a very small risk, and that's never been proven in the past. That's a completely theoretical understanding. So you immediately vote us at the point to which the impact is extinction and great power war. But then let's go on to Sekol, because it's very important. Few major things. They dropped a ton of stuff. Top level, we ensure the real advocacy after nuclear energy. We have more silver because we reach people how to advocate in the real world. People have made policies and learned from date substance. They don't have any evidence on American Indian resistance that was specifically from debate. That fundamentally means that the second voter is education. You vote us because we're the only side that actually allows for education. Very important. They didn't extend the link that pre-fiat impacts are more important than post-fiat. That means spillover and material impacts is the most important impact in the round, and the ballot doesn't justify that they drop it because it doesn't provide any spillover. They also drop theory, floating picks, and vague alts. It's a voter because you don't know what it looks like. That's a reason to reject the team because it kills fairness and education. Fundamentally, vote on those two voting points as the most important points in the round, because at the point to which you want a set call, but you don't actually consider fairness or education in the round, that's a very important and most important link in the round. Fundamentally, at the point to which they drop so much stuff, you immediately vote for the affirmative. It's not even close. But second of all, they say we drop the uranium mining link. We said no link. I mean, you don't mine uranium, we use waste. That means zero links to the K, and they drop that it's settler move to innocence, and also extend our framework. You weigh the post-fiat implementation against the material alternative of the alt. It's key to fairness. Clash is key to fairness. About the topic, talking about it doesn't do anything, and we drop extinction. They say we drop extinction, but they say like no responses. First, drop that it includes indigenous people, and second, that they drop that we have a time frame and extinction is probable, and there's no impacts because ours is not racist. It helps indigenous people because we get rid of waste. They conceded no link. All of these issues tells you it's a very easy ballot for the affirmative. Let's go back to the top and weigh. Number one, and most importantly, you weigh because we're the only side that tells you the number one impact in the round extinction across the board. Russia is the number one impact because first of all, they didn't actually respond to the expansionists and the two examples we specifically gave you. But second of all, even if you don't buy that, extinction includes indigenous people, and we also established the probability is very high. 2 years in Russia is already threatening. 5 days ago, Putin said specifically out loud that they're going to invade Poland. That's very important because we give you the time frame, we give you everything in between. But second, even if you don't buy that on the K, you vote on fairness and also education. All these two only occur in the round. Debate is a game, which means that you fundamentally prefer us in every single world. For all of these reasons, it's a very easy affirmative ballot.
Are you good for grand? Okay.
Yeah.
Time's gonna start now. On the pre-fiat level, where are you getting offense?
Well, first I'd like to say that you guys didn't really extend the fact that pre-fiat matters. You guys kind of conceded
I
our
said
framework that
fiat is
post-fiat
illusory, but I
implementation
mean,
is key.
if you don't think so, the judges can just like, I don't know, intervene, but it's kind of your word versus mine. I was just asking you though, where is your pre-fiat offense?
Our pre-fiat offense, we're not settler colonialist, so
Why is that offense? Like, why is that a reason to drop? Why is that a reason to drop us?
No, we're not arguing that we're trying to drop you guys because of pre-fiat offense. We're arguing for our framework. Otherwise, like, we wouldn't be debating against that call.
Okay,
Can we have a question?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Okay, cool. So can we talk more about the spillover stuff? Like, how is advocating for settler colonialism in debate more effective than advocating for American Indian rights outside, like through physical protests and stuff rather than debate space?
Yeah, well, A, we can do both. B, this wasn't
Wait, how's that offense? Like, how does that prove that you need
yeah,
to
okay,
win on
really
this?
quickly. There's a couple reasons we're getting offense. We're just saying that if we can prove A, that your like method, the AF is a like method of research. So if we can prove that your methodology is inherently bad via like being settler colonialist, then we should be winning, that you guys should not be, like, you should be dropped. And then on spillover specifically, the reason that it is important to drop debaters is because of the model of debate you're setting. And obviously, like, this round is literally being recorded.
Wait,
and
how
put on
are we
YouTube.
setting
So if
that?
you wanna
Like,
talk about how it's being
the
spilled over,
NSDA
that's
made the topic.
pretty big.
Right, because
Yeah, we're not critiquing the NSDA. We're critiquing like for example, the extinction link. The NSDA didn't say anything about extinction, and we're just saying
Wait,
that
no,
it's
you're
not a good idea
okay.
to pass the resolution because the resolution is settler colonialist.
Furthermore, there's
Yeah.
no like warranting on why you specifically need to read a like topical affirmative case. And B, we
Okay.
would also argue is that by doing this, because obviously, like Renesh said, it's literally being live streamed. There's people that are going to be watching this round, so they're going to realize like, hey, I should not do this, and you can like literally reach out to like NSDA people to change topics. Even if you believe that people want to like avoid settler colonialism, we'd argue they'd probably still reach out to like NSDA. So
Wait, so the real advocacy is reaching out to the NSDA to change
No,
topics.
we're
Have
saying
you
that
guys
No,
done
no,
that
no,
yet?
no. Wait. There's so many different things. One, we're saying we
So
promote
why
a
is the
better model of
advocate?
debate, and two, we're saying that you guys are your scholarship is like racist, and we should and affirming endorses teams that use racist scholarship, which is bad. But there's like
I
5
understand what you're trying to argue, but the thing is, like, all of your stuff that you're talking about debate hasn't really materialized. Like, any of the protests that are happening that actually do indigenous justice,
Wait,
they don't
you don't
cite debate
advocate
as
for
an
protests.
instance.
The alt is
Or
just saying
advocate, or any of the spillover or anything. When you talk about in round,
Yeah,
you use it to
well,
access
this is a
post-fiat
YouTube. This is
impacts,
being
correct?
live streamed on YouTube. It 100% spills over. And even if it doesn't, a vote for you literally endorses being like settler colonialist. We say is bad. You can see the framing is bad. None of this was in summary. That's time. We've used 1:42 and then 38 seconds. I think we have what? So that means that leaves us with 40 seconds left. I'll just like show you when we start prep. All right, that's time.
just gonna go K. It'll go K, like framing throughout, and then down their case. Okay. Order my time will start now. Extend the K. What we tell you is to vote for the opposite, vote for uranium mining, which is terrible because in order to get thus mining must encroach on indigenous land to take it to the use is built on stolen land and genocide. Thus, any action emboldens these principles and endorses colonialist practices. 3, the justification for why we should affirm is just extinction. You should drop them from this logic because our evidence is that policymakers scapegoat extinction as a way to make it seem urgent to pass colonialist policy. Vote for them, endorses justification, and brings problems into the real world. This goes straight conceded. And also the alt for refusal of those offense under the role of ballot, which is like to minimize settler colonialism, since our finds that actively refusing state policy is the best way to stand up against colonial governments. They give you a couple of responses. They say things like fairness and education response. But remember what Renesh tells you: if you engage in settler scholarship, that doesn't mean means all the fairness it's being unfair and your education is bad, but also too it causes safety issues because you're saying like indigenous people are like conflict based. So that's like prerequisites to fairness and education, because if fairness feels unsafe, they're not going to join that community. They can't access fairness, nor can they access education. Then they tell you that like nuclear energy is good for like mining. We don't even need to win nuclear energy. The extinction link goes conceded. Then they tell you like the only response to extinction comes brand new second summary says that they have a time frame, and that their evidence isn't racist. But all arguments that their evidence is racist because it's all predicated on this idea of extinction. Remember, extinction hasn't happened. But every debater has been reasoning for the last 20 years, but extinction hasn't happened. Extend the framing. Our interpretation is that the app is a method of research and thus weigh their framing of their plan and the scholarship before looking to the substance of the case because we're going to assume the scholarship and framing to be true and accurate. Meaning that if we win that they're going to settle scholarship, they have no offense of the round because all their evidence isn't true, which means they can't even win the ballot. Then they tell you the ballot doesn't matter and it's bad. But remember, if we prove that their arguments are bad, you should probably drop them to like show like to punish them. And B means they also don't have offense in the round because their scholarship is bad. And C, we argue it spills over because fiat is illusory, but the way we structure arguments affects the way we think about the world. Remember, this is literally being live streamed on YouTube. That's the craziest access to spillover. On their case. Remember our response says mutually assured destruction prevents exchange. They say it's hypothetical, but no, the warning goes consider you're obviously not gonna let yourself nuke each other. No country's going to engage each other. We haven't seen extinction happen yet. And we argue Russia's like not revisions. And every time the US does actions, they're going to react even more, which causes even more conflict in their world. Vote on the K, vote on the terms, on the non-uniques. You're voting for the neg.
I'll take the rest of our prep. I believe we have around 1 minute left. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, cool. I'll be taking prep starting now. Okay, that's time. Okay. I'll be doing no cards. I'll just be going over a few arguments on the affirmative. And then I'll be doing like the K stuff and then weighing. Okay, is everybody good for me to start? Okay, cool. Russian dominance with Rosatom is of Russia's nuclear energy strategy, but Rosatom disregards safety. And to reduce influence, US must increase nuclear influence. Otherwise, Rosatom projects power and is emboldened to start a great power war with the US and Russia, which escalates to nuclear and extinction. But this one response that they talk about that they keep on including, they drop the time frame is a couple years, and Russia's envisionist. So we outweigh because of extinction framing. And there are a few warrants that they always drop in extinction framing. I'll go on that in the K, but they keep on saying that Russia is only going to react. However, that's not true. We give you slews of empirics, slews of evidence with Russia literally saying they're going to attack because they see Trump is going to leave NATO, and that is in our card in the first in our case. But next, let's go to the K stuff. We ensure real advocacy after nuclear energy because we have more spillover, because we teach people how to advocate in the real world. This link goes completely conceded when we said this in the summary, and people have made policies and learned from debate substance, and they don't have any evidence of American Indian resistance that was specifically from debate, and there's no example of real policy that results. They keep on talking about the live stream. The live stream doesn't matter because they will just cut better blocks if the spectators are spectating, and they are only speculating what will happen when people are not going to actually adapt and make their strategy settler colonialist as a result. Then they talk about this link to uranium mining, but the fact that we have no link and the fact that we keep on asserting this means that it's zeros their K because we don't uranium mine. We only use nuclear waste, if anything. But either way, we cut off this stuff about climate stuff, so it doesn't even matter. But extend our responses to extinction. First, they drop that extinction includes indigenous people, so it affects marginalized communities, and they drop that we have a time frame in extinction is probable. But also, no more that extinction means racism. They drop the link. The whole team, we help indigenous by getting rid of race. They try to extend their framework now, and that they already didn't extend it. Their interp in summary, but that you prefer pre-fiat, but we win that post-fiat is key because framework is important because it zeros their K because they have zero spillover. Then they see fiat is illusory. No, it's not. We said time and time again, advocacy happens from fiat, and especially in policy about the nuclear topic. And even if nothing else, they drop the fact that floating pigs and vague odds are a voter because it makes it extremely unfair for the affirmative because it's very vague and it's a moving target. But remember, they conceded every part of the link chain in the rebuttal against Russia and the time frame. They can't go back. Use probability times magnitude to know that extinction is the biggest impact to prevent. You vote F.
Good round.
Good round.
Good round.
Good round.
Okay, give judges a few minutes to make decision. USAFO, do you want judges to leave as well? Or no?